We are going to take Dark Magician into 2024. With a new ban list, new archetypes, new decks that take center stage, our goal takes place throughout a year-long journey filled with locals, regional flights, and YCS adventures, all backed by new ways to play Dark Magician. I will take this deck and make it as competitive as possible. Happy New Year's, everyone! I wish you nothing but health, success, and most importantly, happiness. We are starting the new year with a new list I've tested thoroughly since the last time you saw me. Starting off the deck profile, we are playing the 2 copies of Dark Magician and the 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl. Now, if you've known me thus far, my channel is very, it's a huge advocate for playing as little bricks as possible. So I've been playing the 1 copy of Dark Magician and the 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl. However, going forward with the way the format is shaping up and the amount of graveyard interruptions, and the amount of graveyard interactions of some other decks in the current format, for example, Fire Kings, Labyrinth, we are going to see an incredible amount of graveyard interruptions in addition to this. As the format adjusts, we need to adjust. And so because of that, I'm upping the number of Dark Magicians from 1 to 2, just in case one gets banished or interrupted with. You really kind of want the second one in rotation at all times. The 1 Dark Magician Girl, unfortunately, is mandatory, even though she's not very good, because Soul Servant is so freaking amazing in this list. It's so just the way it generates card advantage is unmatched by any other Dark Magician card, which is why we need to play the 2 different names. Soul Servant in this particular list is actually so effective that I've actually been experimenting with the Palladium monsters. It's not good enough yet to be taken to a competitive level. However, I do think that they can see a place, especially Mahad. In this particular list, Mahad can definitely see a place, which makes Soul Servant a draw 3, making the ceiling of the deck even stronger. It is a brick. I don't love it. However, it is an option. So yeah, that's it for the bricks of the deck. We are experimenting with the 1 Mahad, but we aren't going to be adding him for this profile. Next, we are playing the 3 copies of Illusion of Chaos. The reason why we play 3 instead of the 2 prep and the 2 Illusion of Chaos is because I'd rather get drolled on the Illusion of Chaos rather than prep. If I get the search off Illusion of Chaos, I'm more ahead than I would be if I get, the search off prep and then I get drolled. So that's why we opt to play the 3 Illusion of Chaos. I think it makes a little bit more sense. Having the ability to not run into droll, as heavily, is a little bit stronger in my opinion. In addition, we are playing the 3 copies of Magician Souls. Magician Souls, typically does pair well with the Preparation of Rites, because you could send the prep if you open up a prep in Illusion of Chaos. You can send a prep for a draw with Souls. However, in this case, you don't really have access to that, but that's okay. Magician Souls is still the best Dark Magician card in our archetype. I will die on that hill. It's better than Dragoon. In my opinion, I think that Magician Soul does everything Dark Magician as an archetype wants to do in 1 card. We follow up the Dark Magician count, the monster count, with our 3 copies of Magician's Rod. Now, if you've watched my profiles in the past, you know how much I hated 3. I always played 2, simply because I always thought that if you open 2 of these in your hand, you're in such a bad spot immediately before you even play a card. So that's why I opted to always play 2. However, with the way this deck functions, we need our normal summon, and we need our normal summon to do something. Now, typically, I'm down the line, I think what I'm going to be experimenting with is cutting Magician's Rod to 2 and playing 2 additional normal summons with this archetype, just to facilitate a little bit more of those combos. However, for the time being, we are playing the 3 and 3, the 3-3-3, and I think it's worked so far for me. There is, like I said, this deck is far from complete. We have the entire year to fix it, to manipulate it, and make it as competitive as possible. To round off the Dark Magician monster count, we are playing the 1 Timaeus United Dragon. I don't like this card that much. However, it is mandatory, simply because this is the best way in archetype to make Dragoon when you're not using Branded Fusion or you're not using Red Ice Fusion. This is the best way to make Dragoon, and I think it's, even though it's not very good, however, it is a mandatory card in any variation of Dark Magician. So we play it at 1. That's it for the Dark Magician monster count. We are going to move on to the spells here real quick. We are playing the 3 copies of Soul Servant. Soul Servant is insane. Just having the ability to just draw 2 cards every turn, in addition to stacking whatever you want to see on top of your deck with the rest of the engine, is just really, really strong. We follow up the 3 Soul Servants with the 2 copies of Secrets of Dark Magic. Now, the reason why you might be asking, why am I playing 2 instead of 1? Typically 1 is correct, and to those people I say yes, 1 is absolutely correct. However, with the way Secrets of Dark Magic and Dark Magician synergize with the rest of the deck, I think it's very important to kind of see this card in your hand. Sometimes you just want to see this card in your hand. You don't want to be wasting a search to find it. So having a little bit easier access to it to your hand is just a little bit stronger in my opinion. In addition, we kind of get this deck kind of plays like Chimera in a sense, the way I wanted to in theory. So having 2 although it's not as strong as like the Chimera fusion, it kind of functions in that kind of same way. Constantly using DM as material, pumping out fusion monsters, and applying pressure in that regard. The last card of our list is the 1 copy of Dark Magical Circle. Last card of the Dark Magician engine side of things. We are playing the 1 copy of Dark Magical Circle. Now, typically, when you see the Dark Magical Circle, you ask yourself, okay, where's the Eternal Soul? We aren't playing the Eternal Soul. We are not playing the Eternal Soul because Dark Magical Circle and Eternal Soul is just a little too lackluster. It doesn't do enough. It's far too slow right now for the current format. Eternal Soul as a card, there shouldn't be an situation where a card like Eternal Soul has such a hefty drawback where if it pops, you blow up your field. It's significantly better in this deck. So if you do want to play Eternal Soul, I suggest cutting a copy of Secrets for an Eternal Soul. However, in this particular list, with where I'm at in testing right now, I opted to cut Eternal Soul and play the 2 Secrets of Dark Magic. Now, the reason why you're probably sitting there on your computer, if we're not playing Eternal Soul, why are we playing Dark Magical Circle? The reason for Dark Magical Circle in this situation is to simply see the top 3 cards of our deck, stack them however which way we want, so that we can see the exact combo pieces we need to facilitate our plays going forward. In addition, Dark Magical Circle, with the way this deck functions, is actually a pretty decent board breaker. What I mean by that is opening Dark Magical Circle and Magician Souls, allowing you to simply pitch, activate Magician Souls and pitch Dark Magician. Even the threat of summoning Dark Magician to banish a monster on your opponent's side of the field is a threat, and that means that your opponent immediately needs to waste a resource dealing with the worst card in your hand, which is why I think that Dark Magical Circle is actually pretty decent and an effective option in combination with Magician Souls going second, right? So that's kind of why I kind of like Dark Magical Circle in this situation, because it demands a response from your opponent. However, I still think it's not very good. Like I said, if you do want to play Dark Magical Circle and you are animate on playing Eternal Soul, I think cutting a Secrets is okay. However, if you don't, if you want to play the deck as I have it laid out here, Dark Magical Circle is all you really want. Typically, here is where I would plug in Branded Fusion is the best archetype to play with Dark Magician, the best engine to play with Dark Magician. However, we are taking a step aside from Branded to play Runic. We are playing the 3 copies of Runic Tip, which essentially searches every other Runic card in our deck. We are playing the 3 copies of Monster Removal in Runic Flashing Fire. We are playing our Monster Negations with Runic Freezing Curses. We are playing our Spell and Trap card Destructions with Runic Destruction, and our Monster Protections with Runic Slumber. In addition to this, we play the 2 cards that facilitate the whole combo, which is our Runic Fountains. Now, the reason why you're probably asking, how dare you go away from Branded, or thank God that you're going away from Branded. The reason for getting away with Branded is I think Branded DM right now is kind of a very more slow and methodical way to play the game. I think it's one of those situations where it's you build your board and you say, good luck opponent, break it. I think right now the format, as the format changes, we need to change. I think that Branded DM, although I think it's still my favorite variant of the deck, I think that the format demands more one-for-one interactions. And what essentially these 15 cards do is provide those one-for-one interactions that kind of help you push a deck over the top. I think Runic has an insane matchup into other decks in the current format. I think Runic has a very good matchup into Labyrinth, into Rescue Ace, even into Fire Kings. I think that Runic is just overall very, very strong into what the format wants to do. In addition, even though this is a very format dependent call, it's not to go, it doesn't go without saying that this is just blindly, oh, Runic is good, I'm going to play Runic in dot deck. No, the reason why Runic is so effective in Dark Magician is because of Soul Servant. The reason why Soul Servant is so strong in this deck is because it essentially gives you access to the entire Dark Magician engine. However, what Soul Servant lacks is that it relies on draws. With the Runic cards, you are drawing 3 to 6 cards per turn and allowing you to stack any card you want on top of your deck to see it and then facilitate the rest of your Dark Magician lines and lines of play is just insane, right? Essentially, these 15 cards in combination with Soul Servant allows you to see the rest of your Dark Magician engine, which is why I think that these two decks have a very decent amount of synergy. The reason why I've also thought about bumping the number of Dark Magician, the amount of bricks by adding the Palladium monsters is to allow Soul Servant to be a draw 3 instead of a draw 2, right? I've had turns, right, where I'm drawing 8 cards per turn, but how good would it be if you can draw 9 or 10 cards per turn? Because Runic Fountain would resolve twice typically. Your Soul Servant gets you a draw 2. Imagine if it was a draw 3. So that's kind of where the ceiling's at with this deck. You draw an unbelievable amount of cards. You draw 15 disruptions on 15 cards that disrupt your opponent's lines of play. In addition, what these 15 cards do is they act as bodies, right? Each one of these Runic cards can summon a monster, which allows you to go into your link plays, into your fusion plays, using the Runic monsters as materials for Dark Magician fusions and things like that. So that's why I think these Runic cards are very, very strong in the format. I just think that they have very good matchups across the board. In addition, they do have that synergy with Dark Magician. So we are playing these 15 cards along with the 2 fountains, and the reason why we're playing no hand traps is because each one of those 15 Runic cards act as an interruption on their own, and they act kind of like a hand trap in and of their own, which is why generically these are all like going second cards per se, as well as going first and board builders. To round off the deck, we are playing 3 copies of Vis of Starfrost and the 1 copy of Instant Fusion. Vis of Starfrost is kind of the spice in this list. It acts as a tuner with the whole Dark Magician engine being dark monsters. Vis of Starfrost is essentially an extra body on board that allows you to go into your synchro plays. In addition, Vis of Starfrost has amazing synergy with this one line in the deck that I'm going to get into later on in the video. So I think the ceiling of Vis of Starfrost in this deck can be explored further. I do like it. I think it's very cute still. Do I think it's competitively viable? Maybe not yet where it's a guaranteed lock. These were originally 3 copies of Fenrir's, but I wanted to raise the ceiling of the deck just a little bit more, so I added these just to see how they work. It does work fairly well. I'll explain why later on the video. Now, Instant Fusion is essentially your copy of Runic Fountain if you don't have access to Runic Fountain. In addition, Instant Fusion can break boards with a card I'll get into in the extra deck. So that's it for the main deck. If you don't want to play Instant Fusion, you can play the 1 copy of Eternal Soul as the last Dark Magician card. I don't like it. I don't think it's that good, but you can if you want. Moving on to the extra deck, we are playing what every boss monster dreams of being, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. I think Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is still one of the best boss monsters in the game. I think it's really awesome that we have in-archetype ways to summon it. I wish we can bring it out just a little bit easier, but it is what it is. We have what we have, and we need to make the most of it. Now, for the last Dark Magician spell, the last Dark Magician fusion, we are playing the Dark Magicians. Why? Because this deck wants to draw 6 cards. 75% of it is spell cards. Dark Magicians, the thrive off spell cards. In addition, what it can allow you to do is if you draw a Runic card on your opponent's turn, you can set it, making it immediately live, and then activating it as further interruptions if you don't have access to Fountain, which is why I think Dark Magicians is just really, really strong. Finally, we are playing the last Secrets target. We are playing the Guardian Chimera because this deck pops bodies on the board like no tomorrow. In addition, Guardian Chimera does what? Allows you to draw. And essentially you can see what the theme of this deck is. You just want to draw a million cards, having access to your entire engine, your entire runic engine, and trade and limit your opponent's resources by winning the 1-for-1 interaction battle, which is something that I never thought I'd be saying in a Dark Magician list. Finally, we are playing the runic cards. We are playing two Hugins, the Runic Wind, and one Gary. I think these are all you need. I was thinking about playing the horse runic card in addition to Munin. Munin I don't think isn't very good. We have a different time condition in the extra deck if needed, because runic does need a time condition win with how long the games can go. Our final fusion monster is Millenniumize Restrict. This is the instant fusion target I was talking about. Instant fusion can bring out any one of these runic monsters here, as well as the Millenniumize. If we don't have access to Fountain, we can grab Hugin. If we need help breaking a board, summoning Millenniumize Restrict off one card just applies insane amount of pressure. And I think that, they need to deal with this card, or you have essentially a protection going into whatever board you're trying to break. Next, we are playing one Burrow on the floor and one Chaos Angel. These are kind of just generic synchro staples. I think every deck that kind of plays them. I was thinking instead of Baron, we could play Dispatter. I think I'm going to be experimenting with Dispatter if we're going into the Bestial variant because of Branded Regain. Now for the Link monsters, we are playing the one Artemis, the one Dark, the one SP Little Knight, and the one Selene. No room. The one Selene, and the one Access Code. So that's it for the Link monsters. Artemis essentially is the Rod recursion. Dark gets you access to Selene and Access Code. SP Little Knight is just by far and away the best extra deck card in the game, right? If this extra deck had 20 slots, I'd be playing 3 of these. That's how strong this card is. It's just incredibly game breaking. I don't know how they allowed such a generic card to be so accessible and so fluid. I think it's very, very expensive. If you get your hands on it, you have to play it. If you don't play this card, you're at a significant disadvantage going into any event. So, and then Selene essentially allows you to replenish your Dark Magician monsters, things like that, which is really, really strong. And Access Code is essentially for going for game. That's it for the extra deck. The side deck is incredibly locals and format dependent. I'm just going to quickly go over the side deck right now. If you have any questions, just shoot me a comment and I'll answer them any way I can. We are playing the 2 Lava Golems, 3 Droll Lockbirds, 3 Phantasmes, the 3 Nibirus, 3 Forbidden Droplets, and our one time condition is Magic Formula. Simply, it's you summon Dark Magician with Rod, you apply Magic Formula, you make Dark, and you win in time. So Magic Formula is hilarious. It does work. I'd rather this than Munin, if I'm honest, simply because it's a little more fun, and I didn't want to take up extra deck space. So yeah, that's it for the deck profile. I do want to go into one quick combo. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering, why is Vis of Starfrost in the list and how is it utilized? In this part of the video, I'm just going to quickly just do a quick run through of Vis of Starfrost and the niche interactions it can do with this list, acting as a level 6 tuner. Typically, Vis of Starfrost, any runic card, and say the Dark Magicians, kind of is the ceiling of this particular combo. I think Vis of Starfrost, like I said, Vis of Starfrost can be substituted for other non-engine, for example, Kashtira, Fenrir. However, I think Vis of Starfrost just excels the ceiling of this deck tenfold, and I'll explain how right now. So with the Dark Magicians on the board, typically we'd have one more card in hand, because ideally, worst case scenario, you summon Rod, search Secrets of Dark Magic, and then fusing it with Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, leaving you with 3 cards in hand. Now here what we do is essentially we'd activate any runic card. Runic Slumber, it would work just fine. Summoning your Gary, and then your Dark Magicians would trigger, drawing you an extra card. So now you have 3 cards in hand, and the awesome thing that Vis of Starfrost can do is Vis of Starfrost, in order to summon, it requires destruction. So we could destroy our copy of the Dark Magicians, summoning Vis of Starfrost. Destroying Dark Magicians then activates Dark Magician's effect, which can summon out our copy of Dark Magician Girl and our copy of Dark Magician. So now we just have awesome, a bunch of bodies on board. These two can be used as link fodder or whatever you want. Essentially, then Visa Starfrost can just synchro summon into like a Baron de Fleur, for example, and off you go. This is the worst kind of case scenario of Visa Starfrost's utilization in this list, because like I said, Visa Starfrost and any runic spell can get you Baron de Fleur, but using its awesome destruction effect on like the Dark Magicians, allowing the Dark Magicians to trigger to summon more bodies on board to kind of extend your game state further is really, really awesome and interesting, and definitely an alternative way to play Dark Magician, right? Then we could kind of link off Dark Magician and another monster into another link monster, and using that to go into like an SP with the Dark Magician girl, for example. And it just kind of like allows you to generate a little bit more advantage than you typically would with kind of with less, essentially. So yeah, that's it for the utilization of Visa Starfrost. There is significantly more we can get into, but this is just the bare bones minimum of what this card can do in a deck like this. So thank you so much for watching. The next video will be kind of like a combo video. I'm super excited about that. I'm also taking this deck to locals, and I'll have that recorded, and I'll be able to show you guys how this deck interacts with other decks in the current format. So without further ado, thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing, amazing day.